Hello again, Father Mark here, continuing our tour down the wall of the north side of the nave. So we come to the very last window on this side, closest to the vestibule. This window is the window that depicts Christ and the children. So just a reminder, in case this is your first look at our tour here, our church is the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. That's the name of the building. And the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel was finished in the year 1916. It was designed by a well-known architect in Detroit at the time by the name of Harry Rill, who had designed some other churches in Detroit. Some other churches that are easily recognizable as being related to this one, and some that look a little different. But he had his style, he had his techniques, and they were quite popular in 1915, 16, and that era. He chose the Italian Renaissance style, built our church, which is supposedly to seat 900 people, and part of his plan were these stained glass windows that were contracted by the Munich Stained Glass Window Company of Chicago. Most likely installed at the beginning of the year. The church was done by June, so I would say they were working and installing these windows probably March, April at the latest. So this particular window here depicts Christ surrounded by children. This is a very popular theme that was found in both Protestant and Catholic church art in the 19th century, known as the Victorian era. Of course, the idea for the picture is Christ's words to his apostles when they tried to get him to get rid of the little children who were following him and the children who wanted to be with him. Christ's words in some older translations were, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." Christ had a special love for children, and Christ himself said that the kingdom of heaven is filled with them, or with people who have the goodness of children. This theme in Christian art was especially popular in the Victorian era because at that time, well, unfortunately, heaven was very full of children, as the mortality rate among children was extremely high. Many children died in childbirth or in their early years. Almost every family had at least one child that did not make it. And taking a look at the sacramental records of the parish here, in the first year of the parish, 6 out of the 9 funerals that were celebrated here were for children under 6 years of age. 6 out of 9 in the first year of the parish. This image seems to be taken from an engraving made for a 19th century book called The Illustrated Life of Our Lord. The work was done by an English artist by the name of Frederick Warren, and it's circa 1880. So, 20, 30 years later, that theme would still be very much popular in religious circles. As I say, this image can be found in many Protestant churches, in their windows or in their artwork. But he is definitely an English artist of the Victorian era. There have been many copies of the original engraving, like this. This is another copy, not exactly the same, but so close that it's obvious that it's taken from that. So, artistically speaking, we look at this. So we see Jesus is seated outside under a tree. We might gather that this is in the countryside. As we looked and see in the background rolling hills, and so very far in the back you will see a little town, city buildings there. All of this is happening as the sun is setting. One child presents Jesus with a small bouquet of little blue flowers as a toddler tries to climb up to the Lord. The only other thing that's of kind of interest here, especially when you take into consideration the other stained glass windows that we have looked at, the stonework. These artists seem to be caught up in depicting stone. they do a good job of it, and every window seems to have stonework in it, from the first that we have looked at to the very window that we are looking at now. So that was just something I happened to notice here. Nevertheless, the artist here, whoever was in charge of these windows, was a stickler for detail, and this window is no different than the rest. The only other thing that I would point out from an artistic point of view, everybody here has a colorful outfit on. But the interesting thing, when you look at the robes that everyone is wearing, only Jesus has in his robes a design woven in his red robe there. Everyone else is plain. So it kind of puts the focus on Jesus, and all of their outfits bring color to the picture. It's quite harmonious. It's extremely Victorian. It fits the mood of our church. And finally, to make it most significant and very fitting, is the inscription at the bottom, Ofiarowały dzieci szkolne, which means offered by the children of the school. So by 1916, the school would have been up and running. And so this window was paid for, was offered by the school children.